it's important that he's sitting, he crawls across the floor. He shouldn't be sitting so much to begin with. Dr. Hedgeman says his condition is not at all severe if he would just get out and deal with it. Use it or lose it, that's what every doctor says. You probably don't remember Gene Willow, Dad's old friend from Festus, but he has bad Parkinson's, much worse than Dad's. He's still at home in Fort Wayne, but in a wheelchair now. He's really in awful shape, but he's interested in things. While Dad, who can walk, ride, and dress himself, does nothing all day but sit in his chair. Mother, he's depressed, Denise said in a low voice, slicing bread. That's what Gary and Caroline say too. They say he's depressed and he should take a medication. They say he was a workaholic and that work was a drug, which when he couldn't have it anymore, he got depressed. So drugging and forget it are convenient theory. That's not fair to Gary. Don't get me started on Gary and Caroline. The way you throw that knife around, I don't see how you haven't lost a finger. From the end of a French loaf, Denise had made 3 little cross-bottom vehicles. On one, she set shavings of butter curved like sails full of wind. Into another, she loaded Parmesan shards, packed in an excelsior of shredded arugula. And the third, she paved with minced olive oil, and covered with a thick red marble pepper. Enid spoke. Don't those look nice? As she reached cat quick for the plate on which Denise had arranged the snacks, but the plate eluded her. These are for Dad. Just a corner of one. I'll make some more for you. No, I just want one corner of each. But Denise left the kitchen and took the plate to Alfred, for whom the problem of existence was this, that in the manner of a wheat seedling thrusting itself up out of the earth, the world moved forward in time by adding cell after cell to its leading edge, piling moment on moment, and that to grasp the world even in its freshest, youngest moment provided no guarantee that you'd be able to grasp it again a moment later. By the time he'd established that his daughter, Denise, was handing him a plate of snacks in his son Chip's living room, the next moment in time was already budding itself into a pristine, ungrasped existence in which you couldn't absolutely rule out the possibility, for example, that his wife, Enid, was handing him a plate of feces in the parlor of a brothel. And no sooner had he reconfirmed Denise and the snacks in Chip's living room than the leading edge of time added yet another layer of new cells, so that he again faced a new and ungrasped world, which was why, rather than exhaust himself playing catch-up, he preferred more and more to spend his days down among the unchanging historical roots of things. Something to tide you while I get lunch? Denise said. Alfred gazed with gratitude at the snacks, which were holding about 90% steadiness food, flickering only occasionally into objects of similar size and shape. Maybe you'd like a glass of wine? Not necessary, he said. As the gratitude spread outward from his heart, as he was moved, his clasped hands and lower arms began to bounce more freely on his lap. That the daughter whose attentions most aggravated his affliction was the person who least wanted to be seen about or grip his affliction was a sort of devil's logic that confirmed the man's pessimism. I'll leave you alone for a minute, he said, while I get the lunch done. He closed his eyes and blinked, as if waiting for a break in the downpour so that he could run from his car into a grocery store. He waited for a lull in his tremor so that he could reach out and safely eat what she brought him. without capsizing it, and then, as it floated and bobbed, he opened his mouth and chased it down and got it. Got it. Got it. The crust cut his gums, but he kept the whole thing in his mouth and chewed carefully, giving his sluggish tongue wide berth. The sweet butter melted, the feminine softness of baked leaven wheat. There were chapters in Hedgepeth's booklets that even Alfred, fatalist and man of discipline that he was, couldn't bring himself to read. Chapters devoted to the problems of swallowing, to the late torments of the tongue, to the final breakdown of the signal system. The betrayal had begun in signals. The Midland Pacific Railroad, where for the last decade of his career he'd run the engineering department, and where, when he'd given an order, it was carried out, Mr. Lambert, right away, sir, had served hundreds of one-elevator towns in West Kansas and West and Central Nebraska, towns of the kind that Alfred and his fellow executives had grown up in or near, towns that in their old age seemed the sicker for the excellent health of the mid-pack tracks running through them. Although the railroad's first responsibility was to its stockholders, its Kansan and Missourian officers, including Mark Jamboretz, the corporation counsel, had persuaded the board of managers that because a railroad was a pure monopoly in many hinterland towns, it had a civic duty to maintain service on its branches and spurs. Unfortunately, this program had attracted predators. In the early 1980s, as Alfred neared retirement, the Mid-Pac was known as a regional carrier that, despite outstanding management and lush profit margins on its long-haul lines, had very ordinary earnings. The Mid-Pac had already repulsed one unwelcome suitor when it came under the acquisitive gaze of Hillard and Chauncey Roth, fraternal twin brothers from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, who had expanded a family meat-packing business into an empire of the dollar. Their company, the Orphic Group, included a chain of hotels, a bank in Atlanta, an oil company, and the Arkansas Southern Railroad. After months of arduous negotiations, the railroad's unionized workforce voted to offer the Ross a package of wage and work rule concessions worth almost $200 million. With these prospective savings in hand, plus 27% of the railroad's stock, plus limitless junk financing, the Roths made an irresistible tender offer and bought the railroad outright. A former Tennessee Highway Commissioner, Fenton Creel, was hired to merge the railroad with the Arkansas Southern. Creel shut down the Mid-Pac's headquarters in St. Jude, fired or retired a third of its employees, and moved the rest to Little Rock. Alfred retired 2 months before his 65th birthday. In the kitchen, Enid leaned closer to her daughter. Denise, there is something I'm very worried about, and I need your advice. Enid stepped out of the kitchen and made sure that Alfred couldn't hear. Al, how you doing? She shouted. He was cradling his second hors d'oeuvre, the little green boxcar below his chin. As if he'd captured a small animal that might escape again, he shook his head without looking up. Enid returned to the kitchen with her purse. He finally has a chance to make some money,